So this test has 3 levels. It's listening comprehension, grammar, which is structure, written expression, and reading comprehension. And this is considered an academic test. Okay? So, but it's general academic English. You don't need to change your teaching materials for this test. As a matter of fact, we don't want you to change anything before you start administering this test. If you look at your results and you want to make changes later, that depends on you. But this is a curriculum-independent test. So we're not asking you. Many students in Peru worry about that. I need a book for this test. No, you don't. You need to study English and then take this test. General academic English, okay? That's all we're asking for our students. It's all multiple choice. It's a Scantron answer sheet, and I have some examples to show you. And we will actually give the students their score and common European framework for each section. So I can tell my students, you are A2 in listening, you are B1 in grammar, and you are C1 perhaps in reading. Okay? So we use ITP for many purposes. ITP is designed for academic programs where the language of instruction is not English. So it's perfect for Peru. So universities in Peru, we're working with SUNEDU and DIGESU for this product. The first promotion affected by the new university law will be the year 2020. Okay? So those are the first students that will have to have certification in English in order to graduate. So it's used for that. You can send students to Germany, to France, to Canada, to the United States for short academic programs. You can apply to a Fulbright scholarship, a lot of uses. What you cannot do with this test is you cannot go and try to apply to a master's degree in the United States. It is not used for degree programs in English-speaking countries. That's a different TOEFL. That's the TOEFL internet-based test. Okay, so we don't want to mislead our students. We're not applying the internet-based test with them. We're applying the institutional testing program with them. All right, so it's very different. And we have information that, so if my student takes the ITP, I can give him an estimate of his grade on the other TOEFL. We have that information. But the ITP is not a preparation for the ITP because the questions are different types. Okay? That has to be very clear. So it's perfect for what we're doing in San Marcos. Exit the English program, exiting the university, or measuring progress. If I'm a basic student in my intermediate, I take the test again. Remember, the same test measures 4 levels. So it's a great progress measurement as well. And then your program can look at the results and see, how is the program doing in the 2nd level, or in the 3rd level, or in the, well, not the 1st level. But anytime we take this test more than once, we're measuring our progress. So the level 1 test has 140 questions. Testing time is 1 hour and 55 minutes, 115 minutes. Let's say 2 hours. But the students need about 20 minutes to fill out the answer sheets, their name and DNI and all of that stuff. Okay. You can see the score, scaled score for the TOEFL level 1. And here, primarily, we will be using the level 1. Okay? We don't worry about the bottom number. That's like a raw score. We don't care about that. We only care about the scaled score. That will tell your student if they've gotten A2, if they've gotten B1, B2, C1, and that will tell the student if they can graduate from San Marcos or if they have reached the level that you think they should have reached at the English program. Okay? So it's all based on the points, 310 to 677. Every year we get new exams. So students will never repeat the same TOEFL. I manage 10 TOEFL exams per year. Okay? And so, and then the next year they change. So if a basic student is taking the exam as an advanced student later, it will not be the same exam. The format is the same, but it's not the exact same questions, okay? So in order to administer this test, it's very simple. You need the manual, and I have an example here, and I'll leave these with you. You need the manual, you need the CDs. You will always have 2 CDs in each room. In case one of the CDs fails, you have another CD. You need the test books, the answer sheets, and then you will be surprised how many students come without a pencil. So you should have some pencils, okay, and some erasers. That's up to you. Afterwards, we will send to the program the roster, an Excel document with the scores. Each student is eligible for actually 2 score reports and a certificate. And one of the score reports is the Common European Framework score report. Okay? Let me go to the front. So, just so you have an idea, I brought 5 folders and I have 15 people, so I apologize. The way this program works is this is the score report that the student gets. This is for the student's portfolio. This tells the student their global score and their Common European Framework score in each of the areas, plus the abilities that they should have based on that level. Okay? This is the actual official score report that they have to give to the institution that's asking for this grade. So this is nothing. This looks like nothing. But that's because the student is going to give this away. They're going to lose it. We don't use this one much. This is an identical copy of this, but this is only for San Marcos. You can't give this one to the student. So probably San Marcos isn't going to want file cabinets of papers. You probably won't use these, but it's part of the program. Now, we have a little bit of a unique certificate situation. Because we're certifying 4 levels, the certificate changes color as you increase your level. So it's like the Olympics, bronze, silver, gold, kind of that. So B1, B2, and gold is C1. Now for A2, and I hope I brought it, we're giving you a Fulbright certificate. Do you have a Fulbright certificate? Well, there's another certificate that certifies the A2 level that comes from Fulbright. No, that's the TOEFL. So in all 4 levels, we're internationally certifying their level. And in the case of A2, it's the certificate comes from Fulbright. Okay, and I think I have an example. This is the answer sheet that I mentioned. So this takes about 20 minutes for the students to write their name, darken in all the circles. They should know how to do this because the entrance exam to San Marcos is like this, I understand, right? So I've seen, this is the certificate for A2, which is the Fulbright certificate. This is just a copy. It's a lot better than this. But, so based on the color of the certificate, the student knows I'm B1, I'm B2, A2, C1. That's how this works. If you compare, you probably have heard of the British exams, like Cambridge. So Cambridge has a different exam for each level. So that's pretty simple for Cambridge. It's a CET is A2, PET is B1. here we have the same exam measuring all of those British exams in one. So we have to change the color of the certificate so that they understand the level. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about how to do this today, because this is the logistics part you will do in the classroom. Okay. So most of this is like internal. We'll do this with the program coordination. Just so you know that it's a 30-day order period. The exams will be delivered here, and then I just need to get confirmation that you received everything that we say that we're sending you. I'm going to talk about this later, because this is the TOEFL PowerPoint here is not relevant to our. What I want to make sure that we talk about is this. We need to have a decent space in between. I'm going to leave it to your criteria, but TOEFL says like I don't remember what they say. Yeah, 1.3 meters, like front to back, side to side. So if you're using tables, if the table is 8 feet, you can put 2 people at one table. Dice 8 pies, that's what? 2 metros? No, más. 5. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that. But if the table is 6,
2 people at a table.
If it's 8 feet long.
If it's long.
Yeah, 8 feet long. If the table is 6 feet long or 4 feet long, it can only have 1 student. Okay, so San Marcos is okay. We have the desks, right? So we're okay. We're okay. Your desks are are perfect. They're more than 40 centimeters. We're okay. Okay. Just remember, the very first section of this exam is the listening section. So you have to check your schedule if there is going to be a large group of students outside of the classroom. That would be very distracting. So try to coordinate that. Make sure that you put notices up, be quiet, testing in progress, all of that stuff, okay? Of course, we need to have ample lighting. I don't use this, excuse me, I use a little radio. A little radio in this size of a classroom is perfect, okay? If you have built-in speakers, even better. Let me caution you one thing. Once, I was administering this exam with a computer, and I didn't realize that the audio was on shuffle. And it was, so question 1, and then question 10, and question 40, and question 3, and the students were looking at me lost, because the questions were coming out of order. So make sure your computer is not set to shuffle the tracks. Okay, I hope that's clear. If you use a radio, even better. You won't have that problem. The radio plays the CD and you're okay. I'll talk to the coordination about staff. The only thing I ask you, if you're going to use this test for the English Center students, at the end of the cycle, the professor teaching that English class shouldn't be the one administering the test. It should be someone else. We want to avoid profe. They develop a relationship with the professor, and they start asking you for favors or repeat the listening, please repeat the listening. We can't. This is an international test, okay? So it's a lot easier if the professor comes in to administer the test and it's someone different. Now, I'll leave that up to you. That's your discretion. You're professionals. I trust you 100%. But TOEFL would like that. That would be an ideal situation. Sometimes staffing doesn't allow us to do that, but now, once we do this training, if you need to train someone else, that's okay, and we'll leave that up to the coordination. The idea is that you get this information, and then if another professor wants to join us, the more the merrier. Okay. This is center supervisor, so receiving materials, that's all through the coordination. You guys don't have to worry about this. The only thing you have to worry about is after the exams are given to you, then you become responsible for the exams, okay? Proctor selection. Okay, so the proctor is the person who's going to administer the test with the exam administrator. TOEFL requires one teacher or professor for every 25 students. So if you're using an auditorium and you have 50 students, that's okay. You need to have 2 people. If you're using this classroom and you just have 20 students, even better, then you need 1 person. Okay, that's up to you. San Marcos will run this program the way you see fit, the best way for San Marcos. Okay, we're not going to. San Marcos is going to have to ask. So if you have 2 different groups, I need to know that it's. So if you have 100 students in 2 groups, I will send you 2 different exams. Okay, and then later you can't combine those students together because the CDs are different, the exams are different. Okay, so that's the only thing I ask, is that you order the exams according to the number of groups that you're going to have, and that can't change. Only that cannot change. Okay. We know not all of the students will show up. We know that. That's a fact. So that doesn't matter. If I'm supposed to have 20 and only 17 students come, that's okay. San Marcos is only going to be responsible for 17 exams. All I'm saying is you can't mix groups together. Now, here's a problem, and I understand this. Let's say that you order 2 groups of 20, and only 5 students show up here and 5 students show up in the other group. I can't put them together. Or I can, but I have to administer only 1 test. I can't mix the tests. That has to be clear, okay? The tests are different. All right, test day. Students need to have a DNI to take this test. Now that might be a profe, me conoce, but they technically have to have a DNI to come in the room. So how are you going to handle that? What if they don't have a DNI and they say, profe, 10 clases hemos estado juntos, me conoce. They have to have a DNI, okay? I'll leave that up to your discretion, but they should have a DNI. This information is basically public testing, but if students come in and they're with their friends, we want them to be separated. So don't let them choose their seats. You assign their seats. Okay, you go over here, you go over there. You have the right to mix the students up. That's your discretion. All of the students obviously have to face the same way. That's pretty obvious. Okay, one thing we cannot do is we cannot give all of the answer sheets to him and say, pass them back. We can't. I have to get one. I have to hand them out one at a time. The worst thing that could happen to us is to lose an exam. We just can't lose an exam. It's unacceptable. So, no handing like 10 exams to one student and pass them around the room. I cannot say, please help me. She's a student in the class. No help. You have to go down and do it. It seems like it's like a waste of time, but we have to do that. Okay? Same thing with the collection. You go and you collect the tests. Okay, I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but so there's a very short script that you have to read. And you have to follow the instructions. It's so simple. And I'm going to give you a short version of the instructions. You don't need to read all of the instructions. Okay? This is your exam program. San Marcos is signing up to be a distributor of this TOEFL, so you will handle the distribution and administration of the exam yourself, okay? So it's not necessary to read all of the instructions. We have answer sheet instructions, and then we have the administration instructions, and it's not that difficult, okay? I'll tell you about some past problems, okay? First of all, it says walk around the room. You have to kind of circulate around, okay? But during the listening section, we cannot interrupt the students. Imagine if I go and I make some gesture to her and she said, well, I missed the question. I missed number 10 of the listening because you interrupted me. Then what do we do? So during the listening, we have to be very careful about distracting them. But I mentioned this because here's a problem. I have my answer sheet. If the student writes the answers in the test booklet, there is no extra time to pass the answers from the test to the answer sheet. So during the listening, I have to make sure that the students are writing the answers here, not in the test book. And then after that, I just have to be very quiet. But during the rest of the test, the grammar, the reading section, I have to occasionally walk around. Now, I've seen cases where students wrote the entire answer sheet using pen and not pencil. That tells me that the proctor was not walking around the room. The proctor was sitting at the front of the room and didn't notice that the student was using pen. The machine cannot read pen. And then what do? And I have to go and mark each answer with a pencil on another answer sheet. And what if I make a mistake? Then I change the student's grade. Okay? So be careful of that. Two things you want to be careful. You're walking around the room. Students, if you're in section 2, they cannot work on section 3 or section 1. So you're checking that all the students are working on the correct section. They can't go ahead and they can't go behind or go back. Okay? So that's important. Yeah. What about the restroom? It's you guys have to make a policy for the restroom. If a student goes to the restroom, they lose the time of the exam. You can't give them extra time. Okay? And students are not allowed to go to the restroom together, obviously, because they could talk. All right?
Does somebody have to accompany the student if he goes to the restroom?
No, because you will be by yourself. Well, that decision is for the coordination. If they want to put 2 teachers in a room, but I don't think it's necessary. I don't do that. I mean, these are our own students. If this were public testing, this is different. Remember, San Marcos is testing your students. But if this is public testing, like for a Fulbright scholarship or something that's like, we say high stakes, then we have to be very careful. Yes?
Another question. Is there a writing section in the exam?
No, there's no writing section. No, this is the
exam
written
is
part of
wholly-
the test.
The exam is wholly done using a pencil.
Yes, a multiple choice.
And what about speaking?
No, we're not. So
So it's
just the written part of the test. The studies that were done with TOEFL, the Common European Framework abilities are very predictable. If a student gets 500 points on this test, his or her abilities in the other areas are very predictable. It's like clockwork. Okay, but that's why this test is not used to go to study a bachelor's degree in the United States, because we're not measuring the speaking test. And just talking to Professor Garcia today, students, their strengths are reading often and grammar. They're very analytical in some cases, so this favors them to try to meet the requirements for SUNED. But again, it's very predictable. I know Fulbright uses this exam because if a student gets for a maestria, they get 577 points. I know they're going to be very, very fluent because the studies were done with millions of students in 60 countries. Okay.
Excuse me. You know, here at San Marcos in the School of Linguistics, we have also a program that administers exams for people who want to defend their thesis for the master's degree or for the doctorate degree. Is what's the relationship between this exam administered here and the exam over there that has been running for?
San Marcos has to decide how you want to use this.
Yeah.
If you want to do a master's or a PhD, you simply ask for a higher score. So, like I say, this exam has potentially 4 or 5 different uses at San Marcos, but we'll leave that up to the coordination team to decide. Okay. We ask students not to eat or drink, so I ask the proctors not to eat or drink. I mean, water I guess is okay, but if you're opening candy wrappers and it makes a lot, it's kind of a distraction. So, I mean, that's just, I don't have to tell you that. I mean,
No cell phones either.
That's one thing. We don't take away cell phones. I'm glad you asked. But what we do is we tell the students, check your cell phones, check your cell phones to make sure they're off. Right? It's very, and we tell them, you could be disqualified. We don't disqualify people, but if they start using their cell phone, they're out. They're done. They are disqualified. If it accidentally rings and if it happens during the listening, they destroy the test for everyone. So we have to be very careful. We talked about that before. Turn off your cell phone. Okay, I'm going to go through this faster because I have my own material that's more important. But remember, don't let the students leave the room until you count your tests. That's simple. You collect all the tests. If you have 20 students, count 20 exams and then dismiss the students. I had a case where students were dismissed once and then we found that one of the tests was missing. There's nothing you can do after that. That test is gone. Okay? So count your tests before the students leave. Remember, all of the tests have a different test number, so I can figure out which test is missing. And it's very easy to track it down if the students are still here. And they will try to do that stuff. I mean, sometimes they don't know. They just think, este examen es usado, ya voy a llevar. I mean, they're not trying to do anything wrong, they just don't know. And then you find it está doblado en su mochila. So you have to count your stuff before the students leave. That's all I ask. Okay, we're not using supervisor's reports. In this manual, you have supervisor's reports in the back. You don't have to do any of this. You don't have to do a seating chart. None of this. Okay? You only have to count the number of answer sheets and the number of test papers. That's it. Okay, there's my email. Of course, the coordination will have my contact information. If you want to write that down or so my last name is Cheryl. My first name is Jason, so my email is jcheryl@fulbright.edu. Okay. This is the answer sheet here. And so it's going to be done in parts. So first we're telling students, take out a pencil. You cannot use pen. Okay? Now this part you have to edit. I don't know if you're charging for the exam or not. Some institutions give the exam for free, but if the students mess it up, they have to pay for it again. So, creo que tenemos que revisar esto si quitamos esta parte de gratuito. Pero this is editable, you can change this. Okay. Then we tell the students, this is how you answer. All of your answers have to be like this. If they put a dot, or an X or a check mark or something like that, the machine will not read the answers. Okay? And they don't have time to go back. If they put a little dot and they say, oh, dos minutos, we can't do it. They lose the exam. So this is very important. Next, look at this girl's name. She is Maria del Pilar León Guaman. But only on the answer sheet, she is Maria, middle initial, D, because of Del Pilar, D, León, and then the Guaman doesn't go. Because there are not enough spaces on this answer sheet. There are only 20, I think 20 spaces here. So that's the American style. Her certificate is going to say Maria D. León. Okay? But that's the American style. I can put ñes in, but there is no ñe on this answer sheet. So, I mean, we don't want it to say pena instead of peña, right? So, but the thing is, that depends on the orders for certificates. That comes after the fact. Okay, your students are good at this. They got into San Marcos with this kind of a test. But I have seen students, they write their whole name in the first column. They don't know how to do this. So while you're doing this, just walk around the room. Make sure that just check. You just have to do it. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. I've seen a girl write M, A, R in one column. Confused. Okay? It's one letter per column. Leaving a space, and mistakes happen. Last week, for the Fulbright program, a girl was Belén, and the middle initial, she put A instead of E. It was just a mistake. She got a very high score. She understood how to do the exam. She just made a mistake. So her certificate said Maria A. Cuadros. And it was Belén. So I had to print another certificate. We can do reprints. We want to make your students happy, but we have to try to minimize those errors. So if you're using a PowerPoint in the classroom, it helps the students understand what they're supposed to do. Although your students should be pretty good. If you don't have a projector, don't worry. 99.9% of our TOEFLs are done without projectors, by just reading. And if I don't have a projector, I'm holding the answer sheet up and I'm saying, look at section 1. In the box at the top of the page, and I'm pointing to this as I'm doing it, because I don't have a projector. That's up to you. You'll figure out your own style. Okay, next on this answer sheet, section 2, is student number. We've agreed that for San Marcos we will use DNI. So they have to start at the left. If they start at the right, the DNI will come out invalid. So they start at the left. The last 2 numbers are fine if they're blank. The DNI in Peru has 8 numbers. This has 10 spaces. Don't worry about the last 2. You have to start here. Excuse me, date of birth. This is the American system, so it's month, day, year. One of the problems, students write today's date. Nobody was born today. Okay? Maybe today's your birthday, but not this year. Okay? So it happens all the time. And here's the problem. If they mess up the birth date, the system puts automatically January 1st, 1970. And so you will have 10 kids all born on, they're all like 47 years old, 46 years old. And that's just wrong. So they have to do this correct. Now, if they forget to put the 05, 0, it comes out 1970. That's the default. So if it's January, it's 01. If it's October, it's 10. Same thing with the date, and then, of course, the year. Next. And if you look at this answer sheet, and I didn't bring enough to give each one of you, but Section 4 is the country code. Okay, so Peru is 460. If you have a student from Brazil or Colombia or another country, look at it, it's in the manual. But I'm not going to confuse students with too many numbers on the screen. 99.999% of our students are from Peru. But here in the back of the manual, and I'm just going to hold this up here, you have language codes and country codes for other nationalities, okay? If necessary. So I tell the students, if you are not from Peru, raise your hand. And then, you might have a Brazilian student or something. Now, if you have Colombia, then this number will change, but this number will be the same because Colombia is Spanish, of course. So the code for Spanish is 478. This is not a big deal. If they don't put this information correct, it says other on the certificate. It's not a big problem. But it would be nice to have it correct. Then they have male or female. I mean, in Spanish, it's MF, the same. I mean, they can't make a mistake. I've seen it like once. This is kind of important. The level 2 TOEFL is for the basic TOEFL. But for San Marcos, we're going to be using the level 1, the official ITP, for all of the levels because it measures A2, B1, B2, C1. So we will always be using level 1 here at San Marcos, okay? So they need to darken that circle. Then on the answer sheet here, just to kind of give you perspective, this is the answer sheet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is across the top. 6, male or female is right here. TOEFL ITP is number 7, that's here. And number 8 is this line right here, this line. So we're asking the students, who is making you take this test? The TOEFL institution test is for places like San Marcos that have requirements for programs. So they're going to write San Marcos. That doesn't matter to me. What is important is this. How am I going to differentiate the groups? So I'm leaving, this is editable. This you have to change. This could say February. If I only have one group every month in San Marcos, in a big auditorium, then I only need to put February or March. But if I have one group here, one group next door, I need to know. This is group 1, over there is group 2. Because when students ask for their certificates, I need to know what group they're from. If not, I can't print their certificate. How many Maria León are there in the world, in Peru? Because you remember, the answer sheet is not María del Pilar León Mamá. It's not. It's María de León. And there might be many María de León. So I need to know the group here. Students write that information on the answer sheet. Okay? Okay, this section, leave it blank. These are background questions. How many years have you studied English? Why are you taking this test? Leave it blank. We don't have to answer these questions. It takes too much time. It's too confusing. Okay? So leave this section blank. Then this section, it's right here. The students have to put, and this right here, if you can see on the screen, today's date. So today is, February 19th, 2016. This right here, do you see this right here? This they have to copy here. They have to copy this here. And then they have to sign it. Okay, if you have a menor de edad, the DNI doesn't have a firma, right? They have to invent a firma. And they're going to laugh and giggle, but they have to make a firma at the moment. I think most of your students are mayores, right? So you don't have to worry. Let me explain to you my situation. When I do public testing, it happens all the time. My cousin goes to Fulbright to take the test for me because his English is better. So how do I catch the imposters? This. Okay? The The photo on the DNI doesn't help me. The photo doesn't help me. Los primos se ven igual, but the signature helps me. Now, here at the Language Center, you're not going to have that problem. These are your students. But if you have public testing, students that come off the street because they want to graduate from uni, you don't know who they are. Ya mandado su primo. That's important, the signature. Okay? So I'll leave that up to you. For your own students, not a big deal.
Excuse me, and what about fingerprints?
We don't have biometrics, it's too logistically complicated. You know, like, you mean like putting ink down here? No, because I don't have a way, I can't tell with that fingerprint. For me, they all look the same. I don't have a machine to tell. So that's a good idea. Okay, so now we get to the point, and I'm going to just pass this answer sheet around because I just want you to check the answer sheet. So look at the answer sheet and pass it over. So now we're at the point in the administration, we finished the answer sheet preparation, and now we have to give out the tests. Okay? So here's the TOEFL test. This is the back of the test. But I give all the students the tests at this point, and I tell them, you have 2 minutes to read the back of this. Okay? TOEFL doesn't say that. TOEFL says, read the back of this and look up when you're done. Students don't look up. Okay? So I tell the students, tienen 2 minutos. I mean, well, in English. You have 2 minutes. And you guys just sit there 2 minutes. Students don't open the test booklets. They don't have to do anything. They receive the test booklet, they read the back. That's the first part. This is very general information. Okay? You don't have to read this out loud. You only tell the students, read the back of the test, 2 minutes. That's all. Okay? Then, students turn the test booklet over, and they have to write their name on the front of the test booklet here. And they're going to get so worried. Profe, letra imprenta, cursiva, I don't care. You could put blood on here. I don't care. These exams are destroyed. Okay? It doesn't matter how they write their name. Oh, profe, puse mi primer nombre, dice apellido. I don't care. Here, this is garbage after the test. These exams are pintado.
As long as it's legible.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be legible.
No?
No, because what's important to me for identification is this number. This number is going to be on the answer sheet. The reason why the name is important for me is so I can very quickly look, used, not used, used, not used. And the test booklets that don't have a name on the front, I'm going to put in the unused pile. The test booklets that have writing here, I don't even care what it says. It can be like a medico, writing anything. That goes in the used pile. Okay? So don't let the students go, oh, profe, primer nombre, letra imprenta. I don't care anything. Just put an X on there. Okay? This is identification. So that's what's important. I just need to know that test booklet is used or not. Okay. One second, I'm getting out another answer sheet. So on this answer sheet, and most of you have seen it by now, that test book number has to be written here by the student. And the form number goes right next to it, here. test book number, form number. Right there. Students write. Now, all of the tests have a different number, but all of the tests have to have the same form. And this is my responsibility, I have to send to San Marcos your exam orders correctly. But if for some reason, if there is a 4KTNO1 and this is an NO4, the listening section, the exam is completely different. All of the questions are different. But the CD will not work with that test. It happened. So here I have 20 students. Question 1, my name is, and they have to write. And the other exam said, I live in, and the student didn't say anything. He was just guessing because he felt stupid, right? Because he didn't understand the CD, because the CD was a different exam. So the student felt totalmente perdido, but it wasn't his fault that he didn't say anything. And of course he got a 0. So you have to ask your students, do all of you have 4KTNO4A? And if someone, no, profe, I have O3, then you have to exchange the exam. Okay? Now I'm very careful. I'm the one shipping these exams, so I'm not going to send you the wrong exams, but just in case, you have to check. Okay? It has happened. And again, if you're using a projector, you can, this tells students the importance of that number. And it shows them where to write it. Now we're telling students that the length of the sections. We're telling the students. Section 1 doesn't have a time limit, because when the CD stops, section 1 stops. So the CD indicates. You don't have to measure the time. But for section 2 and 3, you are responsible for the time. And you can tell students, we're using that clock. It is quarter para las 5. Or you can use a clock from the computer. Or you can use your own watch. But you have to announce the time and tell the students, here you have 25 minutes. Now, this is really important. You see this? I go beyond what TOEFL says, because students get this section really bad sometimes. Because, first of all, it has section part A, part B, and section 2. Sometimes students finish part A and they don't. Students finish part A and they don't continue to part B. Okay? And that's a problem, because they're leaving like 25 questions unanswered. So I'm telling students, this is me, and you can do the same thing. Ustedes tienen 25 minutos para completar 40 preguntas. 38 segundos por pregunta. So they have to know. Wow, okay. But sometimes they're going so slow because they see section A only has 15 questions, but section B has 25 more questions. And it's all in 25 minutes, 40 questions. So this is difficult here. And that's part of the challenge of TOEFL, is doing these exams in a very specific time. Okay? If you give them more time, their grades will go up. And then it invalidates the Common European Framework of this exam. Part of the Common European Framework setting is how much time they have. And then the last section is 55 minutes. Okay, and they have 5 reading passages, and they have to answer 50 questions, 10 questions on each passage. Now, at the end of, after 20 minutes in this section, I'm going to tell the students, you have 5 minutes left to complete section 2. Give them a warning. And then the same thing here. After 50 minutes, I give them a warning. You have 5 minutes left to complete section 3. Okay. That depends on you to keep track of the time. We don't have timers or anything. So downstairs. Your clock, your watch, your responsibility. And here are the answers. Whoops. So all of the questions for the listening here, the grammar, and the reading here. Okay? Now, in the instructions it says there is no penalty for guessing. O sea, no hay puntos en contra. But we can't tell the students. Because we can't tell them. I mean, we can tell them, no hay puntos en contra. Sometimes I even say it in Spanish. Right? I have eliminated a section. Let me show you this. So I've given you a modified, these are the official instructions of TOEFL. And here, so listen to this, just to give you an idea. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Try to answer every question, but do not be concerned if you cannot answer all of them. I don't say that. Because then, dejar en blanco. No, estoy aquí para ganar. Hay que ganar todo. Right? So I don't say that. Again, I'll read it. Do not be concerned if you cannot answer all the questions. What am I telling the students? Leave it blank. I don't leave that part in there. I take it out. Then it says, right after that, there is no penalty for guessing. That I say. That's important. And then sometimes I tell them, no, I think it's important. Right? Because all of this is in English, but I shoot out the Spanish because I want them to understand. Right? If you run out of time, put all letter C. C. I mean, like they did in the examen de admisión. Right? Then it says, if you are not sure of the correct answer to a question, make the best guess you can and go on. That's also good information. Yes, but keep going. Okay, we don't want to run out of time. All right, that's the end of that. So that PowerPoint, if you want to, you can use it in your classrooms. If not, you have to read the manual for the answer sheet instructions. Okay. I'll leave that with you. Let me check this one. Okay, this is the order form. This is just for coordination. But remember, I need to know group 1, 20 students, ¿en qué nivel de examen? ¿Nivel 1 o 2? Quizás acá es un solo grupo o con 100 alumnos en el auditorio. No hay problema, pero ese es el order form. Eso ya está. Aquí, this is the handbook. So this is the student handbook. If you want to put this on your web page, it's a link. You can put this PDF so students can look at, all the information. We're not going to read this today. It tells them about the exam, during the test, tells them how to do this. So a lot of this information is not for your students. About the registration form, there is no registration form. That's internal for San Marcos. You guys make your program. This is TOEFL's thing. You don't have to use their forms. Okay? Here's a sample answer sheet. This is good for them to know. Practice questions. This is good for them to know. What kind of questions are going to be on the test? I think that's fair. But remember what I said before. This is a curriculum-independent exam. We don't want them to practice for the test. We just want them to understand the test. Only that. We want to know what their real level of English is. So here are some practice questions. So this is good for your students. This is the practice answer sheet, which is really not authentic. This tells them how do we do the scoring. That doesn't matter. I am TOEFL in Peru. So I scan the exams in, my office is in San Borja. I scan the exams in Lima, and I don't have to do this conversion. The machine does, the software does this for me. So I don't need to tell students. Students are not going to know. I had 42 questions correct. They're not going to know that. They're going to get a converted score only, so we don't have to talk to them about this. Okay? Anyways, that's that document. This is the manual that I'm holding in my hand right here. Here's a PDF version of this manual. You don't need anything in this manual. That's why I'm not using this manual today. You only need this. You only need the instructions, which are going to be none of that here. You need this, instructions for administering the test. And even this, I'm editing a little bit. This is very general. So remove everything from your desk, admission form. They don't have an admissions form, so why am I going to say that? They're going to get confused. So this, we need to edit, and I did. I've given you let me see if it's this. No. This is the or maybe I have to send it to you. I've made a cheat sheet. Do you know what a cheat sheet is? It's like a shorter version. I'll make sure that you get it. That looks like it's not here. Okay. So let's just see what this is. So this is more internal information. This is actually the last thing that I need to talk to you about today. But we need 30-day order for the exams. This all has to do with coordination. But the exams will probably get here in 7 days. But just in case I don't have enough quantity, I need to have 30 days. So that's the order form that I showed you. And again, I'm covering all this with the coordination. You guys don't have to worry about this. I will pack the materials according to your order. You will get test booklets, CDs, answer sheets, and a supervisor manual in each bag, plus a cover sheet that tells you how many exams, what code, etc. Just saying conforme, only that. Okay. Then this is important. Coordination will have to lock the exams in a place because these are, we just can't lose these exams, so they have to be locked. Then all the materials are returned. Now, I'm showing you this because I want to talk about this for a minute. You cannot open tests. If you open the test, you pay for it. Okay? So sometimes this has happened. The proctor is like, okay, abran sus folletos así. And then he just paid for an extra test. Because remember, San Marcos is going to have students, and correct me if I'm wrong, they register for the test. So hay 100 alumnos que hacen free. Okay, so I'm sending you 100 tests. But sometimes they get sick, they forget, they get stuck in traffic. Remember, you cannot let students come in late. They come to the door, the listening section's already going. No, porque va a interrumpir el examen a todos mientras así, o sea, we can't do it. So keep that in mind. Anyways, my point is, I send you 100 exams, but only 80 students come. San Marcos only has to buy 80 exams. But if you open one, then I have to charge you 81. So don't open the exams. Okay? there's no reason to open the exam. Students open the exams when the CD tells them to do that. So remember, to finish this whole training with you right now, without taking your time, I'm going to just imagine you're a student, okay? So I'm going to say, welcome to the TOEFL, my name is Jason Sherrill, and then I'm going to say, please take everything off of your desk. You may have your pencils, erasers, your D&I, test booklet, and answer sheet on your desk only. Question? Okay. So students take the things that we can. Then I'm going to say, please make sure your cell phones are turned off. And then I tell them, take out your cell phone and look at it and make sure it's turned off. And then I tell them, if you can't turn it off, take out the battery. Because some students, they don't turn off the cell phone. Okay. Then I'm going to say, then I'm going to hand out the answer sheets. Okay? And then I'm going to tell them, please look at section 1 on the answer sheet, where it says name. In the blocks at the top of the answer sheet, please write your first name, middle initial, and last name using capital letters. Then darken the corresponding letter that you have written in each column. And remember, I have my PowerPoint maybe here, maybe I don't. I'm holding the answer sheet, I'm showing them. Okay? Then I go next, student ID. Please write your D&I number and darken in the circles for the D&I number. Okay, I do all of that. Okay? Then, I'm doing this quickly. Okay? Then I'm going to say, okay, then I'm going to hand out the test booklets. You finish the answer sheet. Okay, remember, what do they do first with the test booklet? I give them the test booklet, what do they do for 2 minutes? They read the back. Okay, so I'd say, turn your test booklet over. Do not open the test booklet, because they're all going to try to open it. Don't open it. They read the back for 2 minutes. I'm looking at them. It could be 3 minutes, I don't really care. There's no specific time limit. Just to guide the students, I tell them 2 minutes. If I tell them, look, read it and look up, then it takes 10 minutes. Okay, so then I say, turn your test booklet over, and in the box on the front of the test booklet, please write your name. Remember, it doesn't matter how they write their name, they just have to write something, okay? And then it says here, do not break the seal of the test booklet. They cannot open the test booklet yet, because the CD tells them when to open the test booklet. The CD of the exam is the instructions for the exam. Okay, I'm going to just look at the number printed in the top right-hand corner. Remember the book number that goes on the answer sheet. The form number goes on the answer sheet. And then I'm going to get to this section. And I'm just going to read this to you right now, like a real text. Okay, now remove everything from your desk. You may have only your test book, answer sheet, pencils, erasers, and your D&I, I'm adding that, on your desk. Note paper may not be used. You are not allowed to mark your answers in the test booklet, and you must not make any notes in your test book or on the answer sheet. You will receive credit only for the answers marked in the proper places on your answer sheet. Remember, be sure all of your marks are dark enough to completely cover the letters within the circles. You must not be able to see the letters. If you make a mistake, erase the mistake completely. Try to answer every question, but do not be concerned if you don't. So I don't say that part, right? Okay, we'll cross that out. Let's see. There is no penalty for guessing. If you are not sure of the correct answer to a question, make the best guess you can and go on to the next question. The test is divided into 3 sections. Each section has a different time limit. Remember, during the time allowed for each section, you must work only on that section. You must not go back to a section you have already worked on, and you must not start the next section until you are told to do so. Here it says, it is an act of cheating. I don't say that to my students. That's too scary. Okay. But I do tell them, if you fail to follow these instructions, you will be required to turn in your materials, and your answer sheet will not be scored. That's pretty serious, right? Okay, then I say, even if you finish a part or section before the time is called, you must stay in your seat. There will be no rest break before the end of the test. Now, that means no official rest break. The students can go to the bathroom, but there's no break. There's like, we don't stop the test so everybody can walk around. If one student wants to go to the bathroom, she raises her hand and she goes to the bathroom. Okay? One at a time. So here it says, there will be no official rest break before the end of the test. When you have finished the entire test, stay in your seat until all of the materials have been collected and accounted for, and you are dismissed. You are not to read aloud or talk once the test has begun, and you must not ask any questions. If you find something wrong with your test book or answer sheet during the test, raise your hand and we will give you a number. Okay, that's it. Now, this last little section right here says, the first section of the test is the listening comprehension. All of the directions for this section are given on the recording. So then I stop and I look at the students and I say, are you ready? Because when I start the CD, this is not in the manual. When I start the CD, I can't stop the CD. Are you ready? And I want everyone, I want to see their eyes. You don't want to go like this. You know, are you ready? And they say, yes, yes, yes. Okay. Then I start the CD. And it says, welcome to the TOEFL, and I stop it right there and I say, is the volume okay? In the back. I say, in the back, is the volume okay? And then you tell me yes or no on the volume. What the students do, right? And then I say, okay, I'm going to start this, again. I have to be really careful. Are you ready? Yes, I'm ready. I start it and my job is done. Then, the CD finishes. The entire listening section finishes. It's approximately 40 minutes long. Okay? Then I have right here on this page level 2 or level 1 instructions. What level are we going to have in San Marcos? Level 1. So I can't read this because the times are wrong. You're going to cheat the students. This one gives them 17 minutes, this one gives them 25 minutes. So you're always going to be using level 1 unless otherwise indicated by the coordination. Okay. So level 1. So the CD stops. Okay. My job is to read this. This little block right here. Stop work on section 1. During the next 25 minutes, you may work only on section 2. You may not read or work on any other section during this time. Turn to section 2 in your test book. The number 2 is printed across the top, so we can see if they're cheating. The number 2 is on the top of every page. Now read the directions for section 2 and begin work. And then I tell them, we're going to use this clock or my watch or the computer, whatever time piece you're using. And it is now 4:45. We will stop at 5:10. Tell them when they're starting and when they're stopping. And I would prefer, if you have like the board, write it on the board. Start, stop. I use green and red. Start, stop, put the 2 times. Okay, remember, after 20 minutes, because the section 2 is 25 minutes, after 20 minutes I tell them, you have 5 minutes remaining in section 2. Okay? Then I have to read after 25 minutes. Stop work on section 2. Now you will have 55 minutes to work on section 3 only. You may not read or work on any other section during this time. Turn to section 3 in your test booklet. The number 3 appears across the top of each page. Now read the directions for section 3 and begin work. And then, after 50 minutes, I tell them, you have 5 minutes left to complete section 3. Then 55 minutes goes by, or 5 more minutes, and I say, here, stop work and put your pencils down. They're not going to do that. They're going to be writing. Stop, and you have to repeat it like a police officer. Stop working on the test. Sir, and you have to get really like, put your pencil down. And sometimes, once I pulled the answer sheet and he dragged his pencil across the page. I mean, some people don't stop. Just make sure they stop. So I kind of made my own. I tell them, even if you have not finished the test, you must stop working now. And then I repeat that as many times as necessary. And I love my students, so I want them to be successful, but I have to follow these rules, okay? I can't give extensions. Okay, I don't have to read all of this, all right? Then, whatever the policy is for San Marcos on the answer sheets, or the results, we're going to give, our commitment for the program is to give you the results in 15 business days or less. So less than 3 weeks. But then, of course, San Marcos has to manage that information. So maybe you want to tell the students, your results will be ready in approximately 4 weeks, whatever you think is the right time. Okay? The program has to decide. We will give you the information in 3 calendar weeks or 15 business days, and then you have to tell your students. And then I usually tell the students where to find that information. I don't know if you put it up here or if you send it to their internet alumnus. I don't know how you do it. That's you decide. So at the end of the test, after I collect everything, I count all the exams. Students are sitting there, they're dying to leave. They can't leave. I'm counting. Sometimes I count, oh, wait, 15. I had 16. And I count again, 16. Okay, my mistake. But if I count 3 times 15, and there's the kid, pulls out the test book. It happens all the time. They don't know. They think it's, this is me. Right? No, it's too. Okay. So I count, and then I say, okay, all the materials are accounted for. Have a nice day. And then they go. Okay. It's kind of hard to understand everything the way I'm talking about it right now, but when you get the products in your hands, it's all going to make sense. It's not that difficult. If worse comes to worse, just follow these instructions exactly. You will be safe. And then you can make little modifications according to your students and then see this. Okay. Are there any questions? Basically, I don't have any more. Yes.
Maybe it's needless to mention this, but I think we have to think also the attitudes of the examiner, toward students, because students are usually under stress and tension.
Yes.
And so I think you need to be welcoming, welcoming to the students, but of course at the same time very precise and very firm. No? Yes,
Good
but not
point.
so arrogant, I would say. Because some teachers, have these attitudes.
Mm-hmm.
They enter the class and they are arrogant, like that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's good.
No, and I don't think that's a good way to teach English, and I don't think that's a good way to run this. But if I come in like, my student, then they start asking me for more time, and I repeat the listening, and those things I can't do. So, if possible, and again, I leave this up to coordination, if she has a class finishing this month, maybe she could administer the test. That would be ideal. If you can't do that, I understand. You have to avoid students getting to know me too well, at least this month or this cycle. I'm always going to see students over and over and over. Even if I have a basic 1 and a basic 7, maybe I'm repeating students. But the same month or the same cycle, it makes it more difficult for you to come in like a police officer, but during the month you are like super relaxed, and because you want students to talk, right? I mean, when you're teaching English, you want students to talk. So you come in, you're really nice, you're relaxed. But for this test, you come in and you're like a different person. And they're like,
Like a
so
JP.
perfect. Right? He's like a police officer, but that's how we have to be for this test. Otherwise, all kinds of problems are going to occur. But I understand your point. I think that's a good one. Any other comments or questions? So, muchas gracias por su tiempo. I know this is kind of like difficult to sit here and watch this because you don't have the materials in your hand to understand, but you will.
Thanks a lot.